So hello, welcome back to the next unit, which is HRD Subsystems. This is actually the continuation to the previous class, which is HRD Systems. Now, I have divided this entire HRD Systems and Subsystems into two different parts, just to tell that there is a difference between these two concepts. HRD Systems are basically the systems, and within the systems, you will get this concept of HRD Subsystems. Now, we told that while discussing the previous class, we have discussed so many different systems, telling that in organizations, human resource development is carried on through different systems and subsystems, and these are the particular systems, and within each system there are so many different mechanisms or interventions which organizations can choose in order to develop its human resource or develop its organization in that particular area of focus relating to that particular system, right? Now today we are going to take out, or we are going to pick out some most commonly used or the most important subsystems or the most important interventions or mechanisms or tools and techniques that organizations can use or organizations usually use in order to develop their human resource and their organization as a whole. Now, all the topics that we are going to discuss in today's class are mentioned here for your reference. Now, let's get into the class. So, Unit 3, HRD Subsystems, Mechanisms or Interventions. Directly entering into the theory part today without any pre-explanation, because we have discussed the most of this particular theoretical explanation in the previous class. If you have not watched the previous class, please go back and watch the previous class, because there we have discussed about the major or the majority of the theory relating to this unit also. Now, all the structures, systems and techniques that an organization uses to help its employees acquire and strengthen their capabilities are viewed under HRD mechanisms. Okay, simple meaning of HRD mechanisms. See, mechanisms are also called as interventions or subsystems or tools and techniques for HRD in organization. Now, see, I have referred here as systems, right? Whenever I say systems here, I am basically referring to subsystems. Okay, now these mechanisms or systems or techniques can be used to facilitate favorable HRD climate in the organization in general and managerial and non-managerial in particular. Okay, so here we are basically talking about the theory. Again, I'm telling you, whenever you see the word system here in this, only in this first paragraph, I'm basically referring to the subsystem. We are talking about the subsystems here. Now, the HRD function itself has been initiated in most of the organizations in the last few years only. Now, some of them are yet to make their presence felt. That means, see, we will be talking about a list of human resource development mechanisms, and we are telling that, see, all these mechanisms came into picture not very long ago, and they, even though now there are so many different organizations which do not or which have not implemented all of these things in particular. That means, see, we are simply trying to understand that, see, there are very few organizations which have used all these different interventions, and most of the organizations use basically only a few of these particular HRD interventions or mechanisms. Now, it also reveals that no organization has yet introduced all the HRD mechanisms. Important HRD mechanisms which constitute the part of HRD climate and considered for the present study are the following. So, see, this entire theory is nothing. Here we are basically telling that HRD mechanisms means this, and organizations use HRD mechanisms to facilitate the development of the human resource as well as the organization in the in the entire organization. And we are telling that, see, these particular HRD mechanisms are in use or have been used not from very long time, and we are also trying to tell that, see, there are so many different organizations which have not yet started to use all these different mechanisms. That means most of the organizations use only a few of these interventions. Now, we are also telling that the most commonly used or the most important interventions are discussed below. See, in the previous class, we have discussed a lot of different subsystems. We told that within each system there are these different things and all these things. Now, you can bring all those things and you can write them as interventions. There is no problem. But we have here chosen the most common or the most important HRD interventions. Now, let's look at what are the different HRD interventions that we will be talking about in the later part of this video. See, we will be talking about performance appraisal. We will be talking about career planning, grievance mechanisms, feedback and counseling, training, employee welfare for quality of work life. That means simply employee welfare programs or employee welfare measures. Now, we'll also be talking about job rotation, rewards, recruitment and selection. So these will be the major, most important HRD mechanisms or HRD interventions that we will be discussing today. Now, see, before directly entering into each of them, let me give you this particular thing. See, this is not related to today's topic, but this is related to HRD in general. See, most of the people, or most of the examinations when you're in your MBA or BBA, they will be asking this short answer telling that what is the difference between training and development. See, there is this difference between training and development, where training means you are basically imparting knowledge or skills in order to perform a job, or in order to perform a job in a better way. So, right? So, training generally means imparting skills. That means you are inducing skills in the individual, whereas development is a long-term concept which is a resultant of these so many different things like training. Not only training, you'll be having training, counseling, and all these different things that the organization uses in order to develop the human resource, right? Now, as a resultant of all these things, whatever comes out is referred as development. That means the change that is caused in the individual or the organization as a result of using some things like these things is generally referred as development. Development is generally a long-term concept. Okay, that means it is intended towards the future, something that happens in the future as a resultant of all these efforts and all these things. Okay, this is the basic difference between training and development. Now that is a general concept I just wanted to tell you, because I think I did not mention it till now. Now coming back to today's topic, the different HRD mechanisms. Now the first HRD mechanism that we are going to talk is performance appraisal. See, if you want complete detailed picture about this performance appraisal, please go back to my human resource management subject, where we had an entire class relating to different aspects relating to performance appraisal, telling that what do you mean by performance appraisal, what is the process of performance appraisal, and each and everything. Now, to give you a simple idea here, performance appraisal is nothing but an appraisal relating to performance of an employee. In simple terms, to give you an example, for example, there is this particular employee. Now, if I'm about to give, or if I'm giving a performance appraisal to this particular employee, means basically after a certain period of time, I will bring all his pre-established standards. That means pre-communicated targets or pre-communicated standards, pre-communicated expected performance things from him, and I will bring in his actual delivery. That means I will bring in this particular employee's expected things and actual things. I will compare both of them, and while comparing his expected things and his actual things, I will be getting some gaps, right? For example, I told him that in the beginning of the year, I told him that you have to be selling 100 mobiles. Now at the end of the year, he sold only 95. So I will be using these informations telling that okay, he has been communicated 100, he has actually delivered 95. So I will be using this particular information, and I will be comparing, and whatever the gaps that I identify, or whatever the information I get by evaluating these two things, or basically comparing and measuring and all these things. For example, in this example, I told him to sell 100, he sold only 95, so there is a negative gap of 5. So we will be having conversations relating to these particular things. Why did you deliver less? Or are you facing any problems? Do you need anything from the organization, like training and all these things? What are the different reasons? Now what can we do in order to reduce this particular gap? In this way, performance appraisal is where the performance of an employee is appraised for a certain period of time. It may be for every 6 months, or every 3 months, or 4 months, or 1 year. It depends on the organization. So this is basically performance appraisal. We are telling that performance appraisal is, and also remember, performance appraisal is a very strong tool which organizations can use in order to develop the human resource, because performance appraisal is where the actual review about the entire performance of the employee in a particular period is brought in. Not only related to targets, each and everything, everything related to the behaviors, the experiences, or the targets, the performance outputs, and all these things are communicated in this particular performance appraisal session. So performance appraisal is considered as one of the strongest tool in an organization, which will have a strong impact on the employee. So we are telling that performance appraisal is a strong tool, or performance appraisal is a mechanism, or an intervention, or a tool or technique that organizations can use in order to develop the human resource in an organization. Now, performance appraisal is a continuous process through which performance of an employee is identified, measured, and improved. This process includes various practices like recognition of employees' achievements, providing them regular feedback, and offering career development. Performance appraisal may be defined as a structured formal interaction between a subordinate and a superior. This is not supervisor, it's a typo, it's a superior, that usually takes the form of a periodic interview, either annual or a semi-annual, it depends on the organization, in which the work performance of the subordinate is examined and discussed with a view to identifying the weakness and strengths, as well as the opportunities for the improvement of skills and development. So this is what is the basic theory of performance appraisal. But the basic idea of performance appraisal I gave you, right? It is basically an interaction relating to the performance, or it's an interaction where the appraisal is given based on the performance of the employee in a stipulated amount, or in a particular period of time. Now the second HRD mechanism or HRD intervention that we are going to discuss is something called as career planning. Now career planning is the discovery and development of talents and planned development of these talents. See, to give you a simple idea about this career planning is nothing but planning related to the career of the individual. That means what generally happens in career planning is the individual's goals or objectives are identified, and the organization, what they'll do is, for example, if the organization is doing career planning or is supposed to do career planning to this employee, what they'll do is they will basically identify the needs or objectives or goals of this particular employee, and they will see the available opportunities in the organization which are related or which can be suited to his particular capabilities or his goals, objectives, and the organization will try to establish a path between his objectives and the organizational opportunities. That is what is called as career planning, where the organization plans for the career of the employee. Now we are telling that, see, in this here we are basically talking about development, right? Now we are telling that career planning also can be used for the development of the human resource in an organization. Now you may have a general doubt telling that in the initial period of this particular class I told you that development of the individual or the organization, right? Now why did I tell that we will also be using mechanisms for the development of organization? Because in the previous class, when we were talking about the different systems of human resource development, we told that there will be certain systems which also concentrate on the development of the organization, or the which are basically organizational oriented. Now I'm trying to tell you that, see, there are also certain interventions which basically focus on the organizational development, because if you are trying to develop the organization as a whole, that will also have an impact on the development of the individual. Now this is a general point not related to this, but just in case you get confused, I'm just trying to give you the clarity. Coming back to this career planning, this is what happens in career planning. Career planning is where the organization plans for the career of the employee. Now see, career can be defined as, now let's look at the general definition of career. If you want more information about this particular career, we will be having an entire unit called as career management in the subject only. Now career can be defined as a sequence of separate but related work activities that provide continuity. Now what do you mean by career? See, in simple terms, career means a series of work related activity. Now it may be continuous or it may not be continuous. Now what do I mean by continuous, not continuous? For example, I may have worked in one organization for 30 different years, or I may have worked in 10 or 15 different organizations for limited amount of time. Telling that for 1 year in first organization, for 2 years in second organization, 3 years in third organization. In this way, career is basically the entire work related activities that relates to an individual, that make a sense, or basically that serve a purpose in a person's life. That is basically a career. The definition of career, or the general meaning of career. See, to give you an exact definition, career can be defined as a sequence of separate but related work activities that provide continuity. Okay. Now, it consists of a series of properly sequenced role experiences which are related to the career development. Moreover, career development is the process through which the action plans are taking place. Now here I am telling career development, right? See, both career planning and career development, both are related terms. That means career planning constitutes, or basically refers to career development, and career development refers to career planning. Okay, that's why I'm using this particular career planning and career development interchangeably. Okay, now in general, career planning is the process of development of human resource. The perception of the employees regarding career planning contributes to the HRD climate. See, you will be hearing so many different things here. For example, career, you will be having HRD climate, HRD culture, and all these things. We have a separate different units for that. So if you are thinking that I'm not able to get these words, don't worry, we will be having detailed explanation for those things also. Here we are telling that, see, this particular career planning or career development also contributes to the HRD climate. Now what is the HRD climate? HRD climate in simple terms is the perception of the employees, like what the employees are thinking about the development aspect related to the organization, or what the employees are thinking about the importance that the top management or the importance that the organization is giving to their development. That is basically the employee's perception is generally referred as HRD climate. Okay, now see, we are telling that this is particular career planning, and this is also a tool or technique or mechanisms that organizations can use in order to develop the human resource in the organization. Now the next intervention or mechanism that we are going to talk about is something called as grievance mechanism. Now what do you mean by grievance? See, in simple terms, grievance is any dissatisfaction related to work or working conditions, or basically related to employment. Okay, now in workplace grievances are common. Now it is up to the organization that they have to deal with these particular grievances, because if organizations do not deal with the grievances of the employees or deal with the situations which are resulting in the grievances to the employees, then it will have a negative impact on the entire organizational climate or entire organizational culture, which will in turn create a negative environment. Now in order to create a positive environment, organizations have to eradicate these grievances. That means organizations have to identify and solve these grievances, because if you have a positive environment in your organization without any grievances, that will definitely have an impact on the employees, the way he performs, the way he thinks, the way he perceives, which in turn can be useful in order to develop the particular employee. Okay, now see, timely disposal of grievances of employees is an important HRD mechanism. Whenever there is a tendency to ignore these grievances of the employees, the concerned organization ceases to be maintaining a healthy developmental atmosphere. So in order to maintain a healthy developmental atmosphere, you should see that grievances are handled immediately. Now we cannot tell that grievances should not come. It's impossible. Grievances may arise. It depends on the employees, right? The way they perceive each and everything. Now you have to make sure that the grievances which arise are eliminated or completely solved as soon as possible, for creating a healthy or a positive working environment. Now the developmental mechanisms of grievance handling require the following. That means if you want to create a good grievance handling mechanism in an organization, first of all you need to have these things. That means first of all you need to have conceptual understanding of grievance of work. That means before directly telling that okay, this is the process of if you have any grievance in the organization, please follow this particular procedure. If you want to create that particular procedure, first you need to know what are the different grievances that have a chance to occur in the workplace, right? So here we are telling that if you want to create a good grievance handling mechanism, you need to know first some or basically you need to have an idea of certain things. Like the first one is conceptual understanding of the grievance of the work. Now the second one is the sources of grievances, and the third one is corporate initiative in installing workable redressing machinery. That means basically here we are trying to tell that, see, in order to maintain a good grievance handling, or in order to set up a good grievance machinery, first of all you need to have the good understanding of all the grievances that have a chance, or basically you need to understand what do you mean by grievances and what are the different grievances in organizations. That is the first and foremost thing. And you must also by using these grievance handling procedures or grievance handling mechanisms, you must also try to identify the areas of grievances. That means the sources of grievances, so that next time you could concentrate on those particular sources, or completely concentrate on removing those sources that are causing grievances to employees. And you should also be having corporate initiatives in installing workable redressive machinery. Now when we will be discussing about the subject law, or industrial relations, we will be talking that see, in our country we have legal obligations for this grievance mechanism. Okay, that means we have legal support, or we have laws supporting this particular grievance machinery, which we will be discussing in industrial relations and laws point. But we are trying to tell that grievance mechanisms are also tools that the organizations use or can use in order to develop their human resource in the organization. Now how are you developing using grievance mechanism? You are trying to create a positive environment in the organization by solving out all the problems, or all the grievances, or all the dissatisfactions that are faced by the human resource in an organization, which in turn will help, or which in turn will nurture, or which in turn will add to the developmental aspect of the human resource in an organization, or which in turn will contribute towards the development of the human resource in an organization, right? Now the next HRD mechanism, or the next HRD intervention or subsystem, is something called as feedback and counseling. Now we have discussed the previous one of the previous HRD mechanism that we discussed is performance appraisal, right? Now there is this difference between the performance appraisal and feedback, which still most of the people are confused. See, performance appraisal we have discussed, right, is basically a an annual or a semi-annual evaluation of the performance. That means basically it is the evaluation of the performance for a stipulated period of time where so many different issues are discussed in a single session relating to the employee, relating to his behaviors, relating to his performance. That means each and everything. Now this feedback is like, it is immediate. Performance appraisal is not immediate, it is for a period of time. For example, if the organization tell that performance appraisal in our organization is carried on for every carried on once for every 1 year, that means they will wait for the entire year, and they at the end of the year they will bring out each and everything related to the employee in terms of behaviors, in terms of performances and all these things, and they will bring it to that particular session. Whereas feedback is immediate. For example, if I'm going through the floor of the factory, and if I see some employee who is who is doing something wrong while performing his job, I can immediately tell him that okay, you are doing this in the wrong way, you have to do this particular thing in the right way. Now in this scenario, this is generally feedback. This is basic difference between performance appraisal and feedback, where feedback is immediate in nature, performance appraisal is not immediate in nature. That means it takes particular time. Now how can we say that this particular feedback can be helpful for development? See, you are basically giving your immediate feedback on the performance or what behavior or whatever of the employee, right? There you are basically correcting him if he is about to, or if he is making any any wrong thing, or wrong deed, or basically wrong action or wrong way of performing a particular task. Here you are correcting the correcting the employee, right? That means here you are trying to change the employee in the positive way, right? So the organizations can also use feedback in order to develop the employee. That is feedback. And next, counseling. Now what do you mean by counseling? See, we have an entire unit upcoming for this particular topic of counseling. Now to give you a simple term, see, when do you use training? When do you use training in an organization? You basically we use training in organizations when there are certain gaps relating to knowledge, skills, abilities, capabilities, or each and every of these things related to the performance. Okay, now counseling is given when there is a psychological issue related. That means when employees are facing anything which are related to psychological matters, then counseling is brought into picture. There are certain things that we will be learning in the next parts of this video, where you will be identifying certain gaps in the organization, in in employees. But the training will not be a solution there. That means, for example, if there is this particular employee who is being bullied in the workplace, now in that point of time his performance may get affected. Now you cannot tell that I will be training this particular employee in order to boost his performance. In that particular case, training is not the solution, and another alternative may be the solution, like for example a grievance mechanism or a counseling, maybe a resolution, or a solution to the the gaps of the performance that happened in this particular employee's performance, right? Now here we are trying to tell that first of all we are trying to tell that training is not always a solution. That is a basic concept, not at all related to this. Now we are concentrating on counseling, right? I'm trying to tell that counseling is a tool or technique or a mechanism that the organization brings into picture when there is any psychological issue involved. Now when an employee is facing any psychological issues, then the organizations use this particular counseling thing. Okay, now we will be having a separate separate entire class for this counseling, but just to give you a basic idea, this is basically counseling. Now what generally happens in counseling? You will be having a counselor, you will be having a counselee, a troubled employee. Now this particular counselor and this particular counselee will be having an interaction, will be having a communication in a session, where this particular counselor will be trying to do so many different things, like talk out so many different things, where he will be trying to make this counselee, or he will be trying to make this particular employee capable of bringing out his own different solutions. That means he will be it's kind of brainstorming session, where he will be trying to make the troubled employee capable of trying to find out different alternative solutions to his own problem. He will be creating that positive environment in order to solve the issue. This is basically what happens in counseling, which we will be discussing detail in further units. Now coming back to the theory of this particular feedback and counseling, see, feedback is the information received back to know about the effectiveness of implication of a matter or communication. Effectiveness of communication can be known from the feedback. Communication efficiency can be improved by analysis of feedback and corrective action. So this is the general theory, but the basic concept is whatever we have discussed about feedback. Okay, now talking about the basic theory of the counseling. Counseling refers to the process of advising an employee or listening to the statement of his problems and enabling him to find from his own thinking and talking a solution for it, which is satisfactory to him. See, why most of the people say that counseling is satisfactory? Because see, I just told you what happens in counseling, right? See, there is this counselor, there is this troubled employee, he came for counseling. Now this particular person, this particular counselor will try to create a positive environment where they see, first of all, this particular employee will start telling his problem, then he will be trying to create a positive environment where this particular employee will, based on this different ideas or different other ways of thinking created by this particular counselor, this particular troubled employee will start to think about different alternatives. This particular counselor will create that particular environment. These are basically trained people. Okay, now he will be creating an environment which enables this particular troubled employee to find out, or to look his problem in different dimensions, where he can think of different solutions. Now if I am a troubled employee, and if I have a different alternative solutions to my particular problem, and if I am choosing something which among those different alternatives, I will basically have a satisfaction telling that, okay, he did not ask me to do that particular thing, I did this particular thing on my own choice, right? So basically most of the people, that's why you will be reading in different sources why counseling is satisfactory to the troubled employee. Now we cannot tell that each and every employee who undergoes the process of counseling will come out as a satisfied person, but we are telling in most of the cases this happens. Now it relates to the method of understanding and helping people who are upset emotionally, the entire counseling thing. Thus, it can be defined as a discussion of an emotional problem with an employee with the general objective of minimizing it. The need for counseling may arise from varied on and off the job conditions such as dissatisfactions, resistance to change, alienation, frustration, conflict, and stress. So basically, this is the general concept of counseling. Now we are telling that this particular feedback and counseling can also be used by organizations in order to develop the employee. Okay. Now see, how can you, if you have a doubt telling that how can you use, if you're trying to fill in the gap between the development and the counseling, basically, see, keep this in mind. Counseling is where the employee has an emotional problem. When generally counseling is referred when employee has a emotional problem. Now if you have an emotional problem, that will definitely have an impact on the the performance of the employee, right? Now you're trying to reduce that particular negative impact on this employee, where indirectly you are trying to develop the employee from his present troubled state, right? So here also we are trying to look at the development aspect. That is how you link this counseling with the development thing. Now the next thing that we are going to talk about, the next subsystem or the next mechanism is training. We all know what is training. Training is, in simple terms, is imparting skills to perform a particular job. That means previously the skills required, the knowledge required, the capabilities required, each and everything are at this level. Now by providing training, you are trying to increase this level. This is basically the concept of training. Now see, I don't think we need to have an explanation for how do you link this training to development, because the main aim of training only is to move the employee forward in terms of, it may be in terms of skills, knowledge, capabilities, behaviors, potentials, abilities, and all these things. Okay. Now training programs are necessary in any organization for improving the quality of work of employees at all levels, particularly in the world of fast changing technology, changing values, and environment. Now training is a learning process that aims to permanently improve the ability and behavior of the employees by enabling them to acquire new skills, knowledge, and attitude for more efficient performance. This includes, that means what are the different things that are included in training program is, first of all, you identify the training needs, then you develop a particular program in order to satisfy those particular needs. Now we have developed a program, right? Now you just implement the program that you have just developed. That means you are providing requisite job skills and knowledge to employees, evaluating the effectiveness of the training program. That means you are evaluating the effectiveness of the program that you have developed. So using all these things, you are basically imparting the skills into the employee. So basically this is the training. See, this these four things indirectly represent the training framework. There is something called as a training framework, which we will be discussing later. So this is the basic concept of training, and we are telling that training is also a very strong tool that organizations use in order to develop the human resource. Now the next intervention or the next mechanism or the next HRD subsystem that we are going to talk about is called as employee welfare for quality work life. Simply we are talking about how organizations can use the welfare schemes in order to develop them. See, employee welfare measures are relevant both in physical and psychological aspects of the employees. That means this particular employee welfare, this entire concept of welfare is there, right, regarding from organization to this employee. the welfare measures, the entire idea of welfare from the organization to the employees will have a impact on the physical as well as psychological aspects of the employee. That means it will have an impact on both the thinkings of the employee and the way he performs his job. Now, employee welfare programs create a sense of belonging and adequacy that benefit the organization in long run. Now, the employees are not paid adequately in many organizations. Sad reality, welfare programs like education subsidies, health and medical benefits are contributing in such a way that the employees can save a major part of their mental energy and the organization can make use of it. So in this way, you are trying to create a positive attitude in the, in the perceptions of the, human resource in an organization, where they could work with more satisfaction or more sense of belongingness or more peace, which, in turn is, a kind of development in their, it may be in terms of attitudes, or it may be in terms of performance and all these things, right? So here we are trying to tell that organizations can also use employee welfare schemes, or basically this entire concept of welfare, in order to develop the human resource in the organization. Next, the next thing is something called as job rotation. We had an entire, topic related to job discussion in the previous subject, human resource management. If you have not seen it, you can just go it and see. We have a topic called as job design, in which we have, something called as job rotation, one of the methods of job design, where we discussed about this job rotation with suitable examples and all these things. So to give you a simple idea, job rotation means you are rotating the employee, through different jobs which are related. You cannot move the, employees, into different jobs which are, not related. For example, you can't just, take a C programmer and place him in the HR department, telling that from today you work as a, HR trainee and all these things. No. See, basically, to give you a simple example, the same example I have been using in the previous subject also. For example, if you are a new HR, trainee in the organization, now you will be trained in different aspects of the human resource. For example, you will be trained in recruitment, you will be trained in, performance management, you will be trained in legal compliance, you will be trained in compensation, you will be trained in training and development department. Now, here doing job rotation means once you complete the training, first you will be placed in the recruitment department. Now, after 6 months or 1 year or whatever it is, you will be shifted to performance management department. After that, you will be shifted to legal compliance department. In this way, job rotation means rotating the employee through a series of different linked jobs, related jobs. Here I am, here there is no need of you learning a new particular skills. Now, the only difference that comes in job rotation is the knowledge, skills, capabilities, everything are same. The only difference is the way you apply your, apply your skills. The application part is different, but, the entire knowledge, skills, the, for example, the human resource subject is same. The way you're applying, or varies or changes from, job to job. That is this particular, job rotation. Here we are telling that employees can be developed in organization using this particular job rotation. And the other, the other benefit or other advantage of this particular job rotation is the employees feel that, okay, they are, applying different things, or they are learning new things, and also they do not feel that, okay, we are performing the same particular job, or they don't feel this boredom kind of thing. So this is basically the, the general or the basic glimpse of job rotation, the basic meaning or the basic concept of job rotation. Now let's look at the theory of this particular job rotation. See, job rotation forms a favorite technique to broaden and understand several business situations. The distribution of responsibilities, it is suggested, will result in specialization. However, to be able to utilize their specialization in the best possible way, the work task should be rotated among the employee so as to broaden their field of specialization as well as their knowledge about the organization's operations as a whole. Now, therefore, once a year, the work task should be rotated among the various employees depending upon their qualifications and suitability to perform the new work task. So basically here simply we are telling that, see, job rotation can be used in organizations in order to, develop the employees. We have looked at the basic theory, right? Now the next intervention that we are going to talk about is something called as rewards. As we already know, rewards have a very strong impact on the employee, right? See, a reward can be anything that attracts a worker's attention and stimulates him to work. It is an incentive. According to Barak and Smith, they gave a specific definition for this reward. Okay, now what is the definition that they gave for this particular reward is, you don't have to remember the names here, but just for you, simple understanding. See, an incentive scheme is a plan or a program to motivate individual or a group performance. Okay, just for a basic idea. Now, an incentive program is most frequently built on monetary reward, that is incentive pay or monetary bonus, but may also include a variety of non-monetary rewards or prizes. So this is general theory relating to rewards that you don't even need to remember. This is just to give you a basic idea. The only thing that you have to remember is reward is one strong thing which the organizations can use in order to motivate and develop their human resource in the organization. For example, if you create an attractive reward program or attractive incentive plan or attractive remuneration plan in your organization, that will motivate the employee to work hard, to develop himself and all these things. So indirectly you can use this particular reward in order to develop the human resource, right? That is what we are trying to tell, that reward is also one of the HRD mechanism or HRD intervention. Now the last HRD mechanism or intervention or subsystem, or the last thing of today's entire topic, is recruitment and selection. First, let's look at the basic theory, what is recruitment, what is selection and all these things. Then we will be trying to link this recruitment and selection with the development aspect. See, recruitment is the process of identifying the prospective employees, stimulating and encouraging them to apply for a particular job or jobs in an organization. It is a positive action as it involves inviting people to apply. The purpose is to have an inventory of eligible persons from amongst whom proper selection of the most suitable persons can be made. This is general theory relating to recruitment. Yes, I will be talking about recruitment and selection, but first let's look at this particular theory. See, selection is the process of examining the applicants with regard to their suitability for the given jobs or given job or jobs, and choosing the best from the suitable candidates and rejecting the others. Thus, this is negative in nature in the sense that rejection of candidates is involved. So, see, this is just the basic theory relating to recruitment and selection. That means, I have also covered this recruitment and selection topic in my previous subject, human resource management. You need to see it there. We have discussed about each and everything related to recruitment and selection. See, basically, recruitment is where you stimulate and encourage applicants to apply to your organization. That means you may be doing so many different things. For example, your organization requires some HR managers or some. See, basically, if your organization requires some human resource, okay, now you roll out an information, or through it may be through advertisements, or it may be through different sources. You roll out the information telling that we are looking for certain kind of people. Now interested students apply. Out of all the people available in the market, people who are interested and eligible, the requirements that you have rolled out will start applying to your organization, right? There a small pool of eligible candidates has been created, right? This is basically recruitment, where you create a pool of eligible candidates. This is recruitment. Now next, once the pool is created, the next step after recruitment is selection and then placement, right? Where what do you basically do in selection is you pick out the candidates who you think are a perfect fit or suitable for the organization in that particular role or in any other role. That means here you take out the candidates which you think are suitable, and you reject the rest of the candidates who you think are not a good fit to the organization, or not eligible according to the requirements of the particular job vacancies that you have rolled out, whatever it is. This is basically selection, where you pick out the eligible or the suitable candidates. So this is recruitment and selection. Now, how can you relate this particular recruitment and selection, or how can you tell that organizations can also use this particular recruitment and selection for the development of the human resource? See, first and foremost thing is, see, in order to plan for the development of the human resource in the organization, first of all, you need to have human resource, right? Now, from where do you bring these human resource in the organization? You bring them basically from recruitment and selection. So basically, while recruitment and selection, you are basically taking in employees into your organization, right? See, there only you are, see, this entire development, what did we discuss about this entire development? We discussed that this entire development thing is based on the gaps. That means the present state, the expected state. This development means you are basically reducing the gaps between the present state and expected state. Now while doing this particular recruitment and selection, you are basically bringing in the employees, right? Now that is the first stage of this development, right? That means in order to develop the employees, first you need to have the employees, right? You need to have them in a particular stage or a particular state, right? That is where you use this particular recruitment and selection as an initial step for the development of the human resource in the organization. So these are all the mechanisms or interventions or tools or techniques or subsystems of human resource development. We have discussed the most commonly used or the most important HRD mechanisms or interventions or subsystems among all the other different subsystems. There, as I already discussed in the previous class, there are so many other different things that the organizations can use in order to develop their human resource. But we have taken out the most commonly used or the most important interventions, and we have discussed in today's class. So this is the end of today's class. Okay, this is the end of this entire HRD systems and subsystems. We have already discussed, right? Today's particular class HRD subsystems is actually the continuation of the previous class. Okay, so in the previous class and today's class, having a joint conclusion, we have started with what do you mean by HRD systems, and then we came to what do you mean by HRD subsystems. While discussing the HRD systems only, we told that within each system we have certain subsystems. There we looked after the general introduction of the subsystem. In today's class, we looked after the most common use subsystems, and we looked after what do you mean by each of these subsystem, and how do you link these subsystems with the development. That means how organizations basically use these subsystems or interventions or mechanism, whatever you call them, in order to develop the human resource in the organization, right? So this has been today's class. But by this we will be ending this HRD systems and subsystems concept, and we will be starting with the next concept, new concept, in the next class. That has been today's class. Thank you.